I'll look for a
Okay.
way to match the recording as well. Thank you. Thank you. EM, over to you.
Okay, so back to the question about how I started my HR career before that interruption. So I was saying that in 2002, I was working with an IT company. And during that time, the business wasn't doing very well. So I was looking for who introduced me to another friend of hers who was working for a global hospitality company, and they were about setting up a new hotel, one of the global chains in the city of Abuja. So that was how I went for that interview. And the purpose of going for the interview was to be hired as an IT manager. But on getting to that particular place, after meeting with the team, there were about three of them. Yeah, the Frenchman, two French people, and then one Nigerian. So during our interaction, or and from that conversation, discovered that I have had several. I've held several roles as an administrator. So I was an office administrator. I was a technical assistant to an ED, and based on that, they felt that one, the major thing was that the IT role was outsourced, so they didn't have an opening for that particular position because that service was outsourced. And then secondly, based on my career experience, they had seen that I've done several things in administration, then plus IT, and they felt okay that the only role that they could offer me is that of HR. But because I haven't done HR, they were going to start me up as an assistant HR manager, but I was going to be the lead HR person in that organization. Okay. Uh, so I was going to be the lead HR person in that organization, so that to give me time to be able to see if I can fit properly into that role. So that was basically how I started. So I took on that challenge. During that process, they were recruiting, recruiting for new hires because it's a brand new place. They needed to set up everything, the people, the systems, uh, the hotel systems were not even installed then, so they were doing all that and then needed to train people. There were a lot of freshers that were brought in, so they needed to also go through some training. So I participated in that process from the beginning up until we finished. So at the end of the period, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks that we had that exercise. Um, then the team now that came to open that particular hotel were about to leave. And so the person who was representing the HR role from the global company gave me a manual. It was on a folder. So it was their HR policies and procedures. And then, we had discussed earlier that he was going to have it like a one-on-one with me, where he will show me exactly what I need to do to be successful on the job. But instead of having the one-on-one, what he did was just give me this big, big manual, you know. So I looked at this manual and I asked him, "So what next?" He said, "Oh, I'm going to go and implementing page one, the last page, that I would be a very good HR person." And I was shocked. I said, "But this was not what we what we agreed." So I took it on, and then within 2 weeks, I had to at least go through so that I have an overview, understanding of what is actually contained in that particular book. So that was how I started my HR role. So studied that, and then I began to also read on my own. I enrolled now in a formal course in HR so that I can get to know more aside from what was in that manual that I was given. So that's how it started. Do I say I stumbled into HR or HR found me? Something like that.
Or HR found you. I totally agree. Thanks so much for sharing. So someone took a chance on you, even though you were not interested in HR, but
Yes.
someone read through your profile and saw that your skills in sorry, I don't know who's calling me at this time, and saw that your skill in administration would be useful for HR. So that takes me to my next question. I've been
Mhm.
getting a lot of young people talked to me recently on the fact that they really want to do HR, but
Okay.
they found out that they are not doing core HR like they would want to. Some of them are doing more around administrative type work,
Yeah.
and they are disgruntled. What would you, when you moved into HR because someone had picked that you were good in administration, how did your administrative knowledge help you land in HR and grow your career in HR? Was there a direct linkage in any way for you? And how did that play out? EM, did you hear my question?
The connection was off and on, but I think you said, how did my HR background link into HR? Did you?
Your
Yes.
administrative background, how did that
Okay.
help? Yes, how did that help you settle into HR?
Okay.
And the
So
reason I asked was because a lot of young people who want to do HR are complaining they're not doing core HR, but rather they're doing administrative tasks at work. And that is not what they want. So I need to know how your administrative background helped, create that foundation for your HR career. So we can all learn.
okay. When we talk about HR has an administrative part. Okay. And if you are able to get the administrative part done and dusted, then it makes it easy for you to be able to do all of that things. So for me, I think earlier helped me to be able to manage and organize things,
Mm,
organize people, because you have a lot of people that you are managing. You need to
mm,
keep records. So the administrative skill will enable you to make sure you get those things out of the way. If you are not able to have a system in place that will help you to manage records, records can include the payroll records, the employee records. There are too many things, making sure that people are enrolled in HMO. All those are part of administrative functions in HR, even though you might say some of them belongs to benefits, welfare. There's an admin part in every. If you master that admin skill and you get those things put in place, put a system whereby it's easy to get those repetitive tasks done. Okay, then it frees you, gives you enough time to be able to now focus on strategic things. Strategic things, sometimes when we talk about strategy, people ask, what is strategy? So strategic things are basically, what do you do to help the organization get to where they want to go to? So let's say, for instance, the organization wants to have, let's take an example from the first place where I worked. So it was a hotel. We had a restaurant. We need to make sure that this restaurant is open for, say, 18 hours. Okay. So if it's going to be open for 18 hours, it means we need to run 2 shifts. Okay. Say 3 shifts. Could be 2 shifts. We might want to run 2 shifts of 8 hours, 8 hours. That would be 16. But you need some lag time for people to clean the place and turn around. So if the place is going to be open for that 18 hours or 16 hours, you need to run 2 shifts. Okay. So your role as an HR person is to, and then opens between that 16 hours, and then we also want it to be open for 7 days in a week. So that's the mission of that organization. Open for 16 hours in a day, 7 days in a week. How do you get that to happen? Your role as an HR person now is to, that is the strategy for that organization. Your role as an HR person is to support that organization to make this happen. And how do you make this happen? You then need to look at what is the manpower requirement for this to happen, knowing fully whether people need to work 8 hours, and even within the 8 hours, you need to take an hour break. How do you ensure that the restaurant is not closed? The restaurant is open the whole time that we want it to be open. And how do we ensure the restaurant is open for 7 days, knowing fully well that people are expected to work for 5 days in a week? So that is where the strategic thinking comes in. How do you plan the manpower to ensure that when the place is adequately staffed, and then the employees are able to take their 2 days off, they're also able to take their 1 hour or 30 minutes break in between during the shift? That's where you then provide the strategic input. What you do then is becomes what you call supporting this, or being a strategic HR by supporting the goal of that particular organization. So the admin part, if you are doing lots of admin, take it as it's a transferable skill that will help you to be able to organize the basic foundational things that you need to do in HR. And if you get that done, so today, the good thing is that we're able to automate some of those things. Let's say, for instance, people want to apply for leave. Before now, you have a form that employees will fill out, pass it through several managers, and then get it signed. Okay, and then you then write a letter back to the employee to say your leave has been approved, you can now proceed. But today, that can be done using a system. So if you understand how it works, it makes it easy for you also to make an input onto how the system can be configured to ensure that it can run smoothly on its own without you necessarily having to do anything serious about the whole process. So you can actually start from the employee, get to the line manager, and what you then get as the HR person will just be a record or a report from the system of those that have applied, leaves that have been approved, and all that. So admin skills, very, very critical for your success as an HR professional. So that's my message to the young ones, Lola,
Thank you. Thank
Lara.
you. Thank you so much. And also to add that I also started my career as an admin officer before I crossed to HR, and really it did help my settling and growing into HR. You mentioned something while you were talking, which is the transferable skills. I've met a couple of people that have gotten to certain, let me say, stage in their career, and they want to switch over to HR. So I have someone who's been practicing law for about 12, 13 years, and she wants to cross to HR. I've also met a couple of other people who have spent a long period of time in their various professions, but want to cross to HR. And they're asking questions. For me to cross to HR, do I need to go back and start from an entry level, given the fact that I have a lot of years in my profession, but now I just want to switch to HR? How can transferable skills play out in crossing over or switching career into HR, regardless
Okay,
of
so like,
how long you've spent in your current profession?
yeah, yeah. Okay, so if you take example from my own career path or career journey, you entry level. I moved in straight to be HR, but I was the lead HR person for that organization, and I reported to the MD of the hotel. We use the title general manager. So that's the title that is used for that one. General manager is like the MD for that particular hotel. So that was the person I was reporting to. So I was the first line HR person, and I had other people reporting to me. So this tells you that based on the skills that I acquired earlier, you can actually move without necessarily going through an entry level role. So it depends on where you are before you move into uh, HR. So the level at which you are in your previous role and the experiences that you've acquired, the knowledge that you've acquired, how they relate to what you need to do in HR. Because if I take, for instance, what I had done previously, I had worked as an office administrator. And as the office administrator, I was responsible in that particular organization for managing. We had some other employees who worked in the organization, those that were responsible. We had an office assistant, we had several other employees who were responsible. Aside from, we had these who were engineers because it was a consulting firm, an engineering consulting firm. So part of what I was doing, I was responsible for actually preparing their pay and all that, even though I wasn't called HR, but I was preparing the pay. I was responsible for managing the petty cash, responsible for managing um, the administration, the finances for that particular organization. So all these experiences, when I then look at then when it comes to hiring people. So let's say maybe there was need for us to replace any person. I participated in interviewing those people that we want to bring on board. Okay, uh, all that. So that knowledge, that experience I acquired. Well, by the time I moved into HR, after they gave me that handbook to look through, I discovered that most of these things that I've done are actually relevant to what I'm required to do right now. So that shows that what you need to do is actually to sit down and look at what is it that is required in HR, those things to the skills, the knowledge that is required in carrying out an HR. So, and then depending on the level, it will enable you to know, okay, this is where you need to start from. You might not necessarily have to start from an entry level, okay, to function well in HR. So that has been my experience.
Awesome. So I have another question for you. Someone took a chance on you, even though you were applying
Yes.
for a different role, but the person spotted the potential in you for HR. So my question to you this afternoon is, would you
Mm.
also take a chance on someone who perhaps is applying for a role? Or have you had, okay, let me rephrase. So have you had to take a chance on someone who perhaps have perhaps applied for a particular role, did not have up to the required years of experience, did not have up to the required competency level for that role? Have you had to also take that chance on someone?
Okay, so I'll say, put it this way. When I moved from the first hotel company to another hotel company that I worked in Tinapa, I think I've actually shared this story on LinkedIn before. On getting there, my role was that of country head of HR. Okay, so I was responsible for all their hotel properties in Nigeria. So we had one in we had two in Cross River State, that's in Tinapa and in Obudu. In Obudu, we actually had, okay, three. We had two in Lagos, we had in Lagos, and then we had others that were coming up in the northern part of the country, Kano, and I think one other place. Can't remember the other state now. So my base, no, we also had in Enugu. Yeah, we had in Enugu, Nikelek. So my base was in Calabar. Okay. And I was a one-man HR department responsible for all these locations. Okay. So good, luckily for me in Obudu, I had an HR person who was managing that particular place. So I have two people there who were responsible for that place. So responsible for Obudu and Utanga. Then in Calabar, where I sit, I was the only one. In Enugu, I had someone there. In Lagos, one of the hotels, I had someone. The other one, I didn't have anyone. So what did I do in Calabar? Because Calabar was my base. Part of my responsibility is I will sit in Calabar, say for 2 weeks, then I have to travel around. So I was always on the move, okay? And I was living from hotel room to hotel room, so in the same facility where I work. So I'll move to Obudu 1 week, move to Enugu 1 week, come to Lagos 1 week, go back to Calabar, spend 2 weeks. That was just the way. So for me to be able to move around, everything is working, including in my base, I needed to have someone to work with me. So there was this lady who was working with us then. When I checked her background, incidentally, she had a school sat. She was a school sat holder. Okay, so because it was a new hotel, they hired several school starts people just to help the community. The hotel was built in a new community, so they trying to help people in the community. So we had some people who were graduates, you have some who were not graduates. So this particular lady, she was very smart, sharp, you know, even though she had a school start, and she was yet to get admission into a university. So she was working towards getting that full admission while I was there. And then somehow she started. So I gave her some tasks and I saw she did very well. Okay. I took a chance on her and began to develop her. So I started putting her through what we're doing. So what we then did uh, was I needed to hire an executive assistant for the GM of that particular facility. And I thought that instead of hiring somebody afresh, this person looks a bit smart. So let's put her through. Let's see what is going to happen. And then throughout that period, I assigned her to now work with the GM. So she was working with the GM and myself. Okay. She provides me support when I get to all these administrative tasks, in HR, I will assign it to her, show her what to do, and then she gets them done. And she gets them done very fast, properly done the way I've taught her. So I was excited that she's picking up. So that was how we continued. Then I started exposing her gradually to different things in HR. So I spent almost 2 years in that particular place. By the end of the 2 years, okay, she was able to do most of the things that I needed to do. Okay, all the administrative tasks, except maybe the strategic ones where we need to sit down to decide what are the business strategies and all that. But because she was also working as the executive assistant to the GM, so what we did whenever we're having a strategy meeting, I make sure she sits in there, take minutes. So because she's taking minutes, she's able to understand what we're discussing. And at the end of that meeting or session, if she has, I always will tell her that if she has any question, there's something she doesn't understand based on what we've discussed, she should feel free to come to me. So when she has any questions, she comes to me to get clarification. I heard we're discussing this. How do we get it done and all that? Okay. So that was basically what we did. And then when I eventually had to leave that place, that was when I was relocating to Lagos. She was the person that I actually asked to start running the show. So she took over, I handed over to her, showed her what she needs to do in terms of the payroll. Good enough, I had an Excel template that I developed for payroll, and she started using it. And I told her if she has any challenge while I'm away, she should feel free to reach out to me. So I think after I left, it didn't take like 6 months or so after then, 6 to 9 months, she was made the HR manager for that particular place. She had finished her, what do you call it, her university education, and she has even written some HR. She's done some HR courses and certified as an HR person. So that was one person that I took a chance on, and I shared that story on LinkedIn sometime, I think last year or so. People thought maybe it was a fictional story because I didn't mention her name. Okay, and then somehow she saw it and then went online and commented that she's the person that I took a chance on. So, so one, okay, relationship, you need to know how to work with people, so you need that interpersonal skill to be able to relate well with people. And then you should be willing to open to learn. When you're open to learn new things and willing to commit to do the work that is required, you will discover that there will be people out there who will want to take a chance on you. Okay, but you must show that commitment first, that yes, you are willing. Then every other thing will just fall in place. So I can see that some people are beginning to drop questions in
Yes,
the
thank
in the
you.
box.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. In addition to what you mentioned in her showing commitment, we also have a comment from Oluwatoyin that she has to be willing, and she needs to
Yes,
also be prepared to take up the extra work
challenge.
required. I have one
Yes,
one
yes.
additional question, a build on that. So there's been this conversation on social media recently or a while back on would you hire for attitude or skill? So would you hire for
Okay,
attitude or for skill? What's your
okay.
view on that?
Okay, my view is that I will hire for both. I will hire for both. So, um, attitude, skill, yes, you can be trained on the skill that is required to get the job done. But I also expect that if you are coming for any job, you should, even if you haven't done it before, you should have an idea of how it can be done. So if you come to me for a job, you don't know how it's done, you don't even have an idea, then it means you're coming to me to become a training school for you. And organizations do not have that time to set up
But you ask
a,
people to come, you can do. I can do
yes, I can do.
ability.
Yes, I can do. You can do doesn't mean you know how to do, but you should have an idea of how it can be done. Okay, so if you come to me, you don't even have an idea of how it can be done. So where do you want us to begin from? Okay, so that's why I said I will hire for both. So you need to have the skill in the sense that you have a knowledge that this is how these things can be done. Though I have not done it before, but if I find myself in such a situation, this is how I would handle it. So that is very critical. That tells me that you have that can do attitude. But if you don't have that, then it makes it difficult for me to say that you have the can do attitude, the can do skill or attitude, as you want to call it. It's actually the attitude part. So that can do is the attitude part. So in terms of the skill is having a knowledge of how it can be done. So there are two different things, and you need to have both. You need to have both to for me to say. If you take an example of the lady that I took a chance on. Okay, so I met her there. She was eager. She wanted to do something more. She wanted to do something more. And when I now talked to her about these two different roles, she wanted to know what is it that she needs to do. And then aside from that, what I discovered she was also doing, she started researching to find out what would make an executive assistant to a GM to be successful. What would make one to be successful if they are to work in HR? What are the things that one can do uh, in HR? So on her own. She didn't wait for me to download everything. She started doing some work on her own to be able to get that knowledge. She has not done it before, but she has read this is how, if you are faced with this kind of situation, this is what you need to do to get it solved. So for me, anyone who wants any person to take a chance on them, they should show willingness to deliver on that particular role, even though they've not done it before. Uh, the willingness that they show is by getting themselves acquiring some sort of knowledge. So that's why when people come to me and they've not done anything in HR, I usually we refer them to do a general HR course, just have an understanding, a general overview of what it is that is required in HR. When you have that general overview, it makes it easy so that when you are conversing with a potential a recruiter, you're able to describe how things can be done, even though you've never done it before. Okay, and then you begin to gain some sort of experience. So for me, I will hire for both skill and attitude. I will not trade one for the
for,
other.
for
I will
the
not trade
other.
one for the other. Yes.
I can work under pressure. Don't worry, I can do it. Thank you so much, Ian, for sharing that. I think I also equally have a similar experience with someone taking a chance on you. I remember 2 years ago in my former organization, I'd walked up to my MD then. There was an open role for, I was country head of HR, but there was another open role which I was longing for. So I walked up to him and I expressed my desire to take up that higher role. And he said, no, 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 I don't think you have the capacity, I mean, to lead more than 200 employees. And I felt really bad that
Yeah.
even though I was leading almost 200 at that time, and I know I have potential for more if given the chance, but he just said, no, 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 you don't have the potential to lead more than 200 employees. And I walked out of his office that day feeling so demotivated. And then I felt, oh, I have worked with this person for several years, and yet it's telling me I don't have capacity for more. To cut the long story short, I left that organization, and within a year, I got another job where I am leading over 6,000 employees, and I'm doing that all to the glory of God, right? Very well to my best capacity. So sometimes I think back and and realize that as leaders, sometimes we tend to also limit our views and our perception on our employees. We just might have to give them a chance. And that's why we also have the probationary review period. For some promotion, you might have to be in acting capacity for 6 months just to also test run if you're able to handle, the weight of the new role that has been assigned to you. To further build on that, I have one question before I take other questions. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. You were willing to put her through the process. Why is it that most HR managers don't give opportunities to people without HR experience? Individuals who want to transition despite the zeal and keen interest they have. I think I'd asked a question on this earlier, but you might just want to do a quick recap, or if you have any additional comment to that question for the person who had asked this question.
Okay, so let me put it this way. Sometimes we think that the HR person in that organization is the alpha and omega. So it's not really the decision. It's not the sole decision of the HR person to make. It's a decision of the organization. So when the story that I gave about this lady that I took a chance on, and the story about myself, where they took a chance on me, you discovered that there was a collective conversation, okay, amongst the people who were making a decision on whether to hire me or not. In my own case too, there was a conversation between myself and the GM where I shared the story about this lady, and he also has observed that she seems to have the capacity to take on more. Okay, so uh, it's something that organization, it has to be a strategy of the organization to want to take on such responsibility to develop people, to take in people afresh. I recall one of the companies that I worked for. Okay, when I joined that company, the attrition rate was very high. Okay, and when I looked at that, after analyzing the challenge with the attrition rate, I discovered that most times people who were coming to join that company, they didn't know what they were expected to do, and so sometimes when they now get in there, seeing what they're expected to do, they are demotivated and they leave. And then somehow they hired people they wanted people with experience in that particular job role. Uh, they bring in these people with this experience in the job role. They come in there, they are not motivated enough. And so they jump out. So when I did that analysis and I saw that was the issue. So what did I do? I had to sit with the MD to say, okay, this is my findings. Okay, this is my finding. In order to solve this, let's make it open, give opportunity to those who don't even have any experience in that particular field, and then have a program where we can train them for the first 3 months. No, train them for the first 1 month, give them opportunity to work and prove themselves for the remaining 2 months. So which means there's like a 3 month probation period. Those that prove themselves we retain. Those that do not prove themselves we let go. Okay. And then in terms of the pay, because these people are on trial, we, instead of paying the full salary, we would graduate the salary and say this is what we're going to pay. It could be 50% of the salary we need to pay to enable them prove themselves. And then when they've proved themselves, we will then take them on as full employee and pay them the full salary. So you can see there is a give and take. Can we turn off Irene? Yeah. So there is a give and take here. Okay, which conversation that I've already had with the MD of this organization. And as soon as I got the buy-in of this MD, it made it easy for me to then go ahead and implement. So then there will be no one within the system who will kick against what I'm trying to propose, because this is now a collective decision of that particular organization. So that's what happens. So that's why you see sometimes when you see these HR professionals or recruiters don't want to give you an ear, maybe they've not had the opportunity to have this kind of conversation. So for HR professionals who would want to encourage young people who don't have this experience, you need to sit down with your CEO, share the idea, but you need to also trade in something. So they want to make more money. They don't want to spend so much. So you can see what I did there in one of the company was to recommend, instead of paying the full salary, let's pay half because this is on trial, but we'll also invest in them, develop them. And at the end of the day, we now have this because they saw I'm coming in, I don't have any experience. They are excited that someone is willing to bring them in, invest in them for 3 months, and if they are good, they keep them. So that was what helped in that particular. So that's something that we can also begin to do. So if that situation exists, then it will be easy for the HR people to make the recommendation and get these freshers who don't even have any experience on board.
Thank you, Ian. I mean, as you were giving your response to that question, so something just came to my mind, and there's been this recent buzzword, sponsorship, getting a sponsor within an organization, someone that can speak for you, you know, at the behind the closed doors. So my question to you in this regard is, what's your view with regards to getting sponsorship, especially when you are being put up for a role and you don't have all the required or requisite skills and experience for that role? What role does sponsorship play in having those conversations at management level?
Okay, so let me put it this way. You don't identify a sponsor for yourself. You don't select a sponsor for yourself. You don't find a sponsor for yourself. The sponsor will find you. What you find for yourself is a mentor. Find a mentor for yourself, but a sponsor will find you. And how will a sponsor find you? A sponsor will find you by what you are currently doing. There's a saying in the Bible that says, have you seen a man who is diligent in their work? They would, who want to complete this for me? They will
Eat
die with
among the
kings, no?
things.
They will
Yeah.
die with kings and all that. So what happens if you're diligent with your work? A king will invite you to the table to come and dine. So that is how sponsorship works. So when you are given a task to do, that thing that you're doing, do it very well. Be willing to take on additional responsibility. Be willing to even do work that is not yours. Okay. And as you keep doing that, there are people within the organization that are seeing what you're doing. No, sometimes people will say, but my manager does not even recognize me, does not appreciate what I'm doing. Yes, your manager might not appreciate, might not recognize you, but there are others within that organization that are seeing what you're doing. Okay. And they also see that when you are not around, there's a gap. When you are there, the gap is closed. So they see those things. So after a while, those people who see what you do will eventually identify you that this person is a very strong person and they will want to be your sponsor. So when they are having that their closed door meeting and you are not there, they will be the one to speak up. So do you have anybody in your department that can do XYZ? No, I don't have anyone. What of XYZ? I've seen them do B, C, A. I first say, okay. So let's give the person a chance and see what they are going to do. So that's how a sponsor comes up. So it's being diligent in your work. So don't go looking out for a sponsor, okay? But you can look for a mentor who would help you overcome the obstacle that you currently have in your current place, show you the way, shorten the curve for you so you don't have to make too many mistakes. That's what a mentor will do for you. So find a mentor, then put in your best in that particular organization. A sponsor will identify you. So sponsors are good. Like in my case, I've had sponsors all along. So in that very first organization, the first hospitality company where I worked, what happened was I said people came, they recruited me, these three people. Then uh, in the course of my job, because of the way I was doing things, and again, because I had an IT background, so it helped me to be able to automate some of the manual things we were doing, some of those administrative tasks. I had to look for a way to automate them. And then when we have our sessions as HR people in that organization, my contribution, I made sure I always contributed, okay? And when I contribute, I make sure it's a value. I don't just speak for the sake of speaking, but I speak to make sure that I'm adding value. Somehow, the regional director of HR for that particular organization, okay, identified me as someone who always want to volunteer. When there's a project, I volunteer. I'm usually the first to volunteer. I want to participate in. I might not know anything about the project, okay, but I'll volunteer. I'll go and learn and study what is this project all about. Then come and then participate. So that was what I was doing, and this regional director took an interest in me. So amongst all the HR managers that were hired, I was the youngest. Okay, youngest in age, youngest in joining the company. But one thing that set me apart was because I had an IT skill. So we wanted to deploy some of our surveys, and people were having challenges with the using the technology. I always volunteer to help people because I would have understood how to use that system. Then I would keep sharing idea. So when it got to a point where they were looking for one person in Africa to represent Africa because they wanted to deploy a new system, this regional director, who is not my direct line boss, okay, was the one who recommended there's this guy in Nigeria, Emmanuel. Can we get him on board? Whenever we're having this issue, we have our meeting and I have challenge with my system, he's the one that helps me to say this is what to do, this is what to do. You get it? So that was how he started to like my contribution, picked on me, and then helped me. When it was time for the company, so something happened. The owners of that particular hotel property said they didn't want this management company again, and we now had to. Most of us were going to lose our jobs. Okay, and then the other opportunity is if there are other hotels, they could move us around. At, there was a particular hotel I didn't want to go to. Okay, so if I were to move, I wouldn't want to go there. I preferred one. So what happened? This person called me. They were having a meeting in all the way in Paris, and then they were discussing me. You know, I wasn't in that meeting, deciding my fate. Where would they have to move me to? Because this my sponsor now, I didn't make him sponsor. He elected himself as my sponsor. Knew that I've always had issues with one of these the hotel, you know, and that GM was eager, wanted me to come to his place. He now spoke out and said no, that he would prefer to have me go to another location and not that particular one, because he knew that I wasn't in good terms with that particular person. And then he called me on the phone to say, this is what we've just discussed. So where would you want to be? And I said, this place. They said, okay. And then he went back. They had a meeting and he insisted that I need to be moved to a particular place. Okay. So basically it's because of my work. I didn't go out talking to him to say, I would like you to be my sponsor. No. But I noticed that he was doing so many things in my favor, even when I goofed sometimes. Okay, he will be the one to defend me. Say, no, you know, he's young, he's just fresh. So let's make excuses for him. He will learn, he will grow up, and then they will just pardon me. So that's what I'm going to say about a sponsor.
Awesome. Thank you so much, EM. So in a nutshell, you don't go looking out for a sponsor, but let the value that you bring on the table
Fine.
bring a sponsor your way. And that
Yes.
speaks to our diligence at work, how we're willing and open to volunteer, and how we solve problems for the organization. Not just, oh, this is my work, I'm just going to face my work. That is not part of what I'm supposed to do. It's not part of my KPI. I mean, a lot of times I hear it's not part of my KPI, it's not part of my KPI. You know, I just want to focus on my KPI. But being open to help, support, and solve problem within the organization. And of course, volunteering, putting yourself forward, being visible as well. Thank you so much. So I have a question from JC, a follow-up question to that. What if the sponsor is not in that organization? Will it still, with the same principles still apply, I believe?
Yes, even if sponsor is not in that organization. So one thing you need to understand is a sponsor for your career. Uh, the mentor might not be in your organization, but a sponsor for your career should always be in the organization where you want to advance your career. So either in your current organization or in another organization where you want to move into, or in the industry, okay, or in the industry, uh, so that the person can help you advance in that particular industry. So that sponsor usually would be either in the sector where you work or in the organization where you work. But if it's for a mentor is better someone who is not working where you work. Okay, yeah.
Thank you for that response. So I have a question from Olushola Felix here. To EM, outside HR space, what would you have done differently that can bring you to prominence like where you are currently?
Anything your hand finds to do it well. That's what brings you to prominence. Anything. So it doesn't matter whether it is HR, whatever it is that you find yourself, even if you want to, if let's say, for example, you are a cleaner, the person that sweeps the room and ensures that the room is always sparkling is the person that they will want to select for something higher because you sweep the room so well. You know, one senior manager will one day call you to a meeting and say, I can see you are very diligent in your work. What's your background? Tell me your story. And that could transform your life. So anything you find your hand doing, do it well. That is what will bring you to prominence. So if I don't see myself doing HR, whatever I'm doing in the organization, previous organization where I worked and the previous career where I worked, I did very well. When I moved into IT, okay, before you know, in a space of a year, I was certified as a network engineer. I did very well, brought in so much business for that particular organization before I said to myself, I think I need to do something better. I need to move. And then I found myself in HR. So the crux of the matter is anything your hand finds to do it very well. If you do it very well, it will bring you to prominence.
Wow, that was powerful. Thank you so much, EM. And like I did mention earlier at the introduction, and that's why that's one of the preeminence that my HR storybook principle is laid on. I mean, we share success principles because my belief is success principles are neutral, they are universal. It
Yeah.
can work for anyone, regardless of your profession, your background, your social status. Like you mentioned, if you're diligent in whatever you're doing, if you put in the work, if you put in the required commitment and you're developing yourself, success principle is universal. It works for anyone. Thank you so much, EM. So I have a question here from Toba. I think you've answered a couple of the questions already, but I'll read everything out. Good afternoon, EM. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us. Please, can you share the importance of CV to those of us that are planning career in HR? And also you mentioned in my HR storybook that you had a strong referral. Please, can you share the advantage of sponsors to those of us considering career opportunity in HR? I think you've answered a couple of that, but if there's any other thing you want to say, please feel free and share.
Okay, so let's talk about the importance of CV. Um, the importance of CV is like, what is your story? Okay, that's what the CV is. What is your CV? The CV is your story. So you need to make sure that the CV is tailored to the kind of story you want to talk about, or is tailored to the opportunity that you want to cash in on. So that's what the CV does for you. So like if you look at my CV, yes, I've done so many things, but depending on what role I'm applying for, that will determine which part of the CV do I need to highlight. Okay, what sort of achievement do I need to highlight? Okay, so that's what the CV does for you. So use your CV, tailor it to highlight the experience, the knowledge, the skills that you've acquired that will help you secure what you're looking for. So you must always have a CV. Try as much as possible to update your CV regularly. In fact, every year, as soon as you attend one training, acquire something, update your CV. And as soon as you achieve something, update your CV. I usually will recommend that your CV should be achievement based. Organizations want to know what you've done, what you've achieved. They don't want to know what you are hired to do. You know, sometimes when you look at CVs, people just list out job responsibilities. Yes, you're hired as HR manager, you're supposed to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but the recruiter wants to know, what did you do? What did you achieve in that particular place? Not what you are supposed to be doing. So that's one, as part of the importance of CV in your career planning. Referral. So I've said relationship is key. Um, like when I got the first HR job, it's someone I met online. So when you are engaging with people online, what is the purpose of that engagement? When you enter into a relationship with people, what is the purpose? You need to define the purpose. Make sure you are intentional. Don't just hang out with people just for the sake of hanging out and it leads nowhere. So you should impact that person, and that person should also impact your life. So um, it's a give and take stuff. What are you investing in that relationship to help that person become better? And what are they investing in you to help you become better? Don't just enter into a relationship to only take, 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 take. So I have some people who want to connect with me and they just want to take, 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 and they don't want to find what can they do to help me become better. Because one is successful at something doesn't mean that there is something that they are not lacking. Everyone is lacking something. Okay, they maybe need support here and there to help them get better at whatever it is that they are doing. So try to find out, how can I help this person, even though they are my mentor. How can I help them? What can I do to help them become better mentors? Okay, as they are mentoring me. Then please share. I've shared advantage of sponsor. So
Yeah.
sponsors helps you to speak about your potential when you are not present. Okay, what you can do. So I think that's with that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, EM, for that response. I mean, you said it all. So, I mean, when you were talking about your CV, that we should ensure that we tailor our CV to speak the kind of story that we want you to speak. So, when we talk about CV, it's not just your physical CV, but your social
Online CV.
media platforms.
Yes.
Yes, all
Yes.
your profiles, all your online profiles, your LinkedIn profile, your Instagram
Mhm.
profile, your Facebook profile, even WhatsApp profile,
Yes.
because
I, I,
this,
I encourage everyone to take a look. Take a look at my the headline of my LinkedIn profile, Facebook, or Twitter. Just take a look at that headline. So that is like a newspaper headline that says this is who this person is. Go ahead.
yes, and from when you're talking about being intentional with how you build relationship, it starts from how you also position yourself to people. If you reach out to people and the next thing you're asking is, I want this, I want this, I want that, you might come across as someone who is just here, who is meeting that person just to take. But
Yeah.
you have to bring value. I tell people, value is not only in, oh, I have this to give, even in the kind of words, the encouragement you give people, that is value to someone. Someone might be
Mhm.
feeling so down someday and would read a chat from you, and that chat will bring a smile their way or sort of change their mood, and that is value to someone. I was listening to KWO yesterday when she was talking about she went somewhere for her manicure and she realized that the guy that was attending to her wasn't smiling. I mean, he felt like he looked like he has the entire world on his shoulders. And she said one or two things to him. It cracked him up, and that changed his disposition. For me, that is bringing value to someone, helping them change, move them from where they are, bringing a smile their way. So it's not really it's not just all about, oh, I know how to do this, I know how to do that, but being intentional to bring good words someone's way is also a value to that person. Thank you so much, EM, for that. I have a question here from Linda Eze. I'd like to ask, given Mr. Michael's experience in MFB, what is your best advice on implementing performance review? If it's the balance scorecard, how is it used? So this is a more technical question. EM. EM, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Did you hear that last
Yeah. Yeah.
question?
Yeah, I've actually, I was reading the question online, so network was
Okay,
just going off and on, but I got
okay.
the question. So he said, what's my advice on implementing performance review? So when it comes to performance review, some HR people tend to have this perception that there is one master template that you can use, and then it's one size fits all. The truth is that it's really not one size fits all. Okay, so you need to look at what is it that you want to measure in your organization. Okay, that's the first thing. What are the things you want to measure? What are the things that are important to the success of your organization? That should form the parameters, the keys for performance system. performance management system you want to implement. If depending on what you want to measure, a balanced scorecard can achieve that, then you use a balanced scorecard. So what I would say is try to identify the different performance management systems that are available. Okay, have a general or fair understanding of how to use them. Okay, and then look at what is it that we want to measure to ensure that we are successful. Based on that, you can then decide to choose this performance system is the one that will be appropriate for my organization. So that will be my advice. In my organization, I've worked for two microfinance institutions now, microfinance banks. The first one, yes, what we use, okay, as a to measure is what I would call a modified version of a balanced scorecard. It's not exactly the balanced scorecard, but in terms of the perspectives, it covers those four perspectives that you find in a balanced scorecard. So there's a customer perspective. The customer perspective, we want to look at growth. How do we grow this business? Okay. Then we'll look at the process. We want to look at efficiency. How do we improve efficiencies so that we don't waste people's time? We don't we don't turnaround time is fast. We don't just waste time. We don't waste resources. Okay, so efficiency is something else that we look at. Then, because it's a financial institution, when we're looking at efficiency, we are looking at the quality of our portfolio. We want to make sure that as we are growing the business, we are also maintaining good portfolio quality. So that's why I say it depends on what you want to look at. Then the other thing is the cost. Okay, you look at your finance, the financial perspective. Financial perspective is how do you make money? What do you do to increase the revenue? What do you do to reduce costs? So those are some of the things that we measure. Then finally, you need to ensure that you have the proper people in the organization and that they have the adequate capacity, knowledge to be able to help you as a business get to where you want to go to. So that's something else we also measure. We measure the learning and growth perspective. So we use these things you will find in the balance scorecard. But when it now comes to defining exactly what we want to measure, we can describe it differently. We might not necessarily apply it exactly the way it's used on the balance scorecard. So the key is what is it that is important to ensure that your business is sustainable and that your business is growing. So if your business is not growing, then you might not be able to ensure that the business remains in business. But business remains in business means that whatever you do supports that sustainability for that particular organization. So those are the things you look out for, and then look through the different type of performance management systems and choose which one fits your organization. I've had situations where people ask me, send me a template. If I send you my template, it might not work for you because it starts from the goal setting. It's not from measuring. First of all, what goals are you setting? Then you now move to how do you want to measure uh, the goals. Okay. So that's my answer, Linda.
Thank you so much. What I also hear you say is in terms of implementing or deciding what performance management system to use, not HR's, it's not solely HR's call, it's HR with
No.
the business.
Yes.
Yes, it is HR together with the business. Wow, thank you so much. We spent 1 hour plus already. Wow, it's been an amazing time listening to EM today. I have one last question. I don't have any question from the chat room. Okay, but I have one last question for you, EM. So what has been the greatest learning that you've had in your career journey? What has been your mistakes? And how did you overcome it? It would be nice to know.
Sorry if you can take the question again. Network. I didn't hear the
Okay.
first part of what you were saying. Yes.
Okay. I asked what's been your greatest learning from your mistake in your career journey?
Greatest learning. Okay. So I've had to misfire several times. Um, so as an HR person who wants to be successful, you need to be slow to more. That's why God gave us 2 years. Okay.
Sorry, we lost you for a bit. The last I
Um,
heard you say was we need to be slow. Can you repeat that last
okay.
statement?
Okay. So we need to be slow to speak, and you need to listen more. Okay. So God gave us one mouth, 2 ears, so which means you need to listen more and speak less. Okay. So before you take any decision, make sure you've listened to all the sides. Okay. Have enough information uh, before you take a decision, so that when you take a position, you know that you are taking the right position. Okay. That is favorable to both ends. And if you are to make a decision, remember that that decision that you are making today will affect your future. In the sense that whatever decision you want to take today, ask yourself, if this situation repeats itself in the future, would I be able to take this same position today? If the answer is no, then you need to rethink that decision before you take it. Because sometimes, let me give you a very simple example. Somebody comes to you, they complain, they have one problem, XYZ, and they're asking for a certain amount. Let's say they want an advance. Okay. And then you say, okay, this person, no, we need to help them. Then you recommend, and the advance is given. As soon as you give that first one, you have to tell the person, please don't share this. It's just because of the way your story touched me. That's why I'm recommending this amount. You think the story ends go right. Approve advance. You have this kind of problem. This is the amount of advance that will be approved for you. And after we begin everybody, and then if you don't give to the next person, the story will now go around that it's because you are very friendly or you are befriending that person. That's why you recommended. Now, because I'm not close to you, we are not related. That's also why you don't want to recommend for me. So always know that that will happen. Okay. You will always be in the middle. Okay. You always be in the middle of the storm. You'll be in the eye of the storm all the time. Because you're in the eye of the storm all the time, ensure that before you take a decision, be very certain that if such a situation repeats itself, you'll be able to uh,
Oh, I think we lost EM due to network challenges. I believe he's going to join us back very soon. I think the network has been sporadic for a while. Okay, thank you so
okay.
much. Okay, you're
Can you
back.
hear me?
Yes, you're back now.
Yeah. The network today is funny. So what I'm saying is for you not to find yourself in situations uh, where you make so much mistake, is you need to summarize, speak less, listen more, and for any decision that you need to take, make sure you have all the information before taking a position. And when you take a position, ensure that that position that you are taking today
EM, we can't hear you again.
Okay, so I don't know. This
The last I heard you say was taking a position. EM, are you still there?
can you? Yes. Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I don't know why the system just keeps putting me in and out. So I was saying that when we are faced with decision making, there's need for us to ensure that whatever decision we make, we'll be able to replicate that decision if we find ourselves in that situation. Also, as an HR person, you are always in the eye of the storm. Uh, Management will be pulling you, the employees will be pulling you. So most times you are in the middle. Okay. Take a stand that will favor both the employee.
Yeah, we can't hear you again. Hi, Ian. So what I heard you say last was
I'm
take a
back.
stand. Yes. I mean, we are wrapping up already.
Take a stand that will favor both the organization and the employees. That would help you to overcome most of the challenge. And you will say, how can I take a stand that will favor both the organization? How will I take a stand that will favor both the organization?
Hi, Ian. We can't hear you again. I guess you're already wrapping up. Ian, are you still there? Okay, Ian, we can't hear you. I guess.
Yeah, this never wants us to close. So, for those of us who just joined late, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. When you go on LinkedIn, connect button is missing, so you see a button. Because I've exceeded the number of connections. Click on the follow button to follow me, and we can continue this conversation there. I
Awesome.
also believe that Lola is going to post this video on her YouTube channel. So
Absolutely.
when the video is posted on the YouTube channel, we'll also share the link. So you can go ahead and replay. And to stay in touch with me, follow me on LinkedIn. I've shared the LinkedIn URL. Feel free to follow. You can also use the hashtag HR with E.
Okay. All right, Ian. We can't hear you again, but I believe. Hello. Okay, you're on mute in case you're talking. You're on mute. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much, Ian. Thank you.
So the network, I don't know what's wrong with the net. The networks just keep going off and on. So I guess they want us to sign off.
I guess that we've been here for over an hour. Thank you so much once again, Ian. I mean, it's been loads and loads of learning from you. From the first part where we had the bit of challenge, where you had shared how you got into HR by chance, and how you've also replicated the same to take a chance on someone, not just taking a chance, but also ensuring that you develop that person. And as at today, like you mentioned, she's doing well in her career. Thank you for sharing that. And with loads and other loads of learning in terms of the transferable skills, regardless of whatever you are currently at the moment, what are the skills that is applicable for your next job, being intentional about it, also developing yourself, being a person of value, being diligent, ensuring that you're not just limited to what you're asked to do, but taking on other responsibility to be of help and to be of support to other people. Thank you so much. You were also able to talk about sponsorship, the role of sponsorship in our career progression. It's not about you going out to look for sponsors, but letting your work find sponsors for you. And that comes from a place of being a valuable person. Thank you. On that note, is there anyone that might want to go off mute and say the vote of thanks? Anyone?
Okay, Lara, can I take that chance? Emperor here.
Oh, yes, please go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, on behalf of the HR Storybook and the platform as well. We want to thank EM for always ready to share knowledge and add value. We say a very big thank you. And we hope that when next we call you,
Thank you too.
you'll be available as usual.
I'm always available.
And
So
on that
far
note,
as it works within my time frame.
I trust you for that. And in that same vein, we want to appreciate Lara for this wonderful work. And we pray that the Lord will continue to strengthen you. Thank you, everyone, for taking our time to participate. See you next month. Thank you, Lara.
Wow, that was a powerful vote of thanks. Thank you so much, Emperor, for that. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for taking out some time out of your Sunday rest afternoon to come and hear, learn, share with us. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm really grateful. And on that note, I want to say have an amazing